Welcome back to the Iron Insight. Thank you for starting your week off right with the Iron Insight every Monday morning at 4 a.m. I'm Bryn Welds.
And I'm Andrew Nichols with Southern Leatherworks.
And today we're sitting down with Mr. Bingo Welding, Brian Legaglio.
Oh, yeah. I got a new singer now, huh?
No, I'm just copying Bob Moffitt.
Oh, man. Yeah, I got one of them last names that makes an impression, and Bob made a real impression with my last name.
Yeah, seriously, it was Jason with the Art Junkies podcast, for those who don't know. It was Jason's podcast. Had he said it before that? Or
Okay, so when I was on Weld.com with Jason, and Jason just was making fun of my last name. And through social media, I was doing some other stuff with him, and Jason was trying to get Bob to intentionally say my last name wrong. And Bob took it another path and sang it. And, that was what ended up coming of that, and even I was Jason, he sent me over a file from my plasma table, and I don't remember how he spelled my last name, but it wasn't even close, and it was very intentional.
Yeah, Bob's a character. We asked him about your last name on the episode that we had him on. He's a singer. He possibly could be part of the opera in the future.
Oh, for sure. He that's a man of many talents.
Yeah, I go to his city once a month, Arkansas City, Kansas. But he's always gone. I can't ever find this guy at the right time.
Bob's dude. He's an amazing guy. He came into Astaris, which isn't too far from me, where they shoot Weld.com, or at least used to, under the old platform or old supervision. And I think he was scheduled to do YouTube videos, and it just came down to my school and hung out with me and Jason for like the day. And then I was like, I did a question, and I didn't have a dog in that fight, but he seemed to. Bob does Bob things, and it's always interesting to see.
But you did end up filming for Well.com for a little bit. What was that like?
I filmed with the original guys, and then I kind of went to when they transitioned, when the original guy left, Todd. Completely different experiences with the old guys. It was the camera guy. He knew the industry. He knew the people. He would drive like your content to make you look good. Like he'd be like, hey man, you're gonna get trolled on that. Like let's reword it, do something. And they because I'm more local to Astaris than Jason is. I met Jason through education right as he got into Well.com. He came down for Skills USA as one of my judges. We hit it off. And then a little while later, I was asked to do some stuff with Weld.com while he was there. And, again, like I told you before we even started, like when I like you, like I'm just going to start talking crap. And in those videos, that's all I did. And like he would say something, I'd agree with it and look at the camera and shake my head when his head was turned. And he would do the same stuff to me. And we had a lot of fun on there. That's how I was able to do it. Once management changed, it was a little different, a little more forced. I had to just do like a product video instead of like an educational thing, and I really didn't want to, didn't really want to be a part of it. It wasn't as fun,
Right.
I had nothing bad about it. Growing pains are growing pains. They had to kind of find their way. I had my own thing, with the school and everything. Didn't need to throw another thing on my lap because for a while there, even I did YouTube videos for Everlast with the same guy. And what would happen is, like, I'd get done on a Friday at school, and then I'd go shoot with Jason and then Everlast, and we'd go to like 2 or 3 in the morning on a Friday night, and we tried to be back there Saturday, as early as we could get, and shoot more videos. And Jason usually did a Sunday also, where I was tapping out at that point. That schedule they had for a while, because when Jason went back to his school, they wanted to make it look like he was there full time, so he was doing a lot of content on the weekends. That man's a machine when it came to that stuff. I was tapping out by day 2.
Right. I'm thankful that you're the one that pushed me to introduce myself to Jason, because all right, here's me, here's Jason. Like, I'm shitting. I seen him in person a couple times, but I'm always shitting my pants before. I can't introduce myself to the head guy, and then I did it because of you.
I was in a 4-set that happened when I messaged you. I'm like, dude, that's Jason. That's my boy right there. Like, he's one of my best friends in the world. I'm gonna, you seem like a good kid. I'm gonna make that happen.
And just recently, this past Wednesday, I was able to go on his podcast, which definitely wouldn't have happened if you didn't. Well, you were threatening. You were like, "I'm going to introduce you if you don't introduce yourself," which ended up working out. And I really appreciate it.
And looking back, I don't know if you have this perspective yet, but looking back, Jason's so approachable, dude. And he's such a open guy, and he's always willing to talk. It's always funny to me, when we go out and someone will hang around. I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And Jason's will sit there and talk with them for a half an hour, or however long he has, or just get lost in the conversation. And genuine good people. Bob's the same way, man. Bob, you better get ready to have a conversation, because you got 2 hours wrapped up in Bob at bare minimum.
Bob will he'll have a conversation, all right.
He will have a conversation.
Whether you want to participate or not, there's going to be a conversation.
Oh man, his story. He has good stories, and
he does.
We have similar backgrounds, and we started trading war stories, and there's always something to talk about with him, for sure.
When we had Bob on the podcast, I think we ended on a Mexican food spot in Arkansas City, Kansas.
That sounds about right.
He will take you to no end.
Yeah. I don't know, for about a year, he'd send me whatever he was smoking that weekend, pictures. That man knows his food. It looks like.
But it's was that?
Oh, I was saying, I was gonna say he eats well, but doesn't look like it. I look like I eat well, and probably don't put down as much food as he does.
But it's you can't hang up on the legendary Bob Moffat. There's no way you'll catch me hanging up. I was on the roof of my house, and he called me a week before the podcast we did with him, and he was like, "Hey, we still good? I might be driving to Texas."
Yeah,
no. There's no way I'm hanging up.
I know. I feel the same way. You gotta have that time to sit with him and talk with him, and I'm bad about it when I get on the phone with Jason. It ends up being 2 hours. We'll say goodbye 4 or 5 times, and then end up sitting, 2 hours, 2 hours and 15, and I'm like, "Dude, I gotta go, man." He's like, "Yeah, me too." Wife's been giving me a look for 45 minutes.
I was pretty happy and surprised that after the podcast, the American Welding Society Weld Wednesday with him,
yeah,
he sat with me for 2 hours and just gave me tips on podcasting advice he would tell himself if he was just getting into it like we are. I mean, what a stand-up human. For sure.
I guess my perspective and background been dabbling in this a little for a little while. Not everyone that had a podcast felt that way in their little realm of the world of welding, and there's room for everyone. You got a podcast, there's an audience. Everyone's gonna listen to your weekly podcasts, but there's 5 days in a week, and you can only listen, re-listen to the podcast over and over again so many times. But if you guys are listening to this podcast, like go to your grandma's house, put it on, let it play all day long, like so he gets the numbers. Yeah, like every computer, cell phones, just get it on and let it play.
Like even I run I mean, well, I guess it's not that hard when you really think about it. Like I work 50, 55 hours, 60 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I run out of podcasts by the end of Tuesday.
Oh, I'm sure.
Until that one on Friday comes out, but there's nobody in the middle of the week. But if Jason's got a Weld Wednesday plus a Monday podcast, then I'm dialed.
Oh, yeah. That's the great thing about being in the field. Now I teach. I can't have my earbuds in all the time.
Yeah.
I gotta answer questions and such.
Speaking about teaching, so you post a lot of experiments on, kind of experiments on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like yesterday you put a torch to some material. Can you tell us what material that was?
That was titanium. Titanium is funny to me with like the general public. Like it's like this god material. Like it's impossible to weld. It's people put this material on a pedestal, and a lot of my early background was aerospace, and then heavy industrial, and then I went back to aerospace within the heavy industrial companies I worked with, and like titanium was something we did all the time. It was a part of what we did, and like I'll watch people, like it's a fantastic material, but like you weld it improperly, you've just you converted the crystalline structure to a heavy granular structure that will break instantly. And I see people putting like propane torches on it, getting those pretty colors, and just destroying the material. And I guess if you're building an exhaust for a very expensive car and you're putting the colors on it, they don't plan on having that exhaust for more than 2 years. So, but if you want something that runs for 12, 13, 15 years, probably don't want to get titanium. Anyway, so that was titanium. I was putting an oxy-fuel welding tip on it, throwing all kinds of carbons in it, just for fun.
So, you used to work in aerospace, and Andrew and I both took a metallurgy class in college. We went to the same college, right?
Okay.
I don't know about Andrew. I hated that shit, and I blanked out.
I loved that shit.
No,
I loved that class.
I regret it now. You loved it because your class was fucking off. So was mine, but yours was some... You had like all the class clowns in the whole county in that class.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
But
sounds like a good class.
It was a great class.
So, why is titanium so commonly used in aerospace or for those exhausts like you're speaking about?
So we'll talk about an aerospace application. Aerospace application, it has a high rate of it can dissipate heat at a high rate. It's light. Light being a contributing factor for like rockets, and rockets have like a 3% safety factor, where most things have a 20% safety factor in. Safety factors meaning usually equates to weight. So they have to drop material, like rockets only have like a certain amount of redundancy because redundancy causes weight. So they try to keep their safety within that 3%. So titanium being a great material for certain applications, but everything in flight, from rockets to, rockets especially with the new relatively new concept of reusable equipment, everything has a service life. So like those titanium parts, only go up and down, or, even something in a commercial airline only has so many flight hours that they can put on it. So titanium is a great material for applications that has a service life and has to abide by that service life, where like automotive stuff, I mean, it's cool, you're gonna lighten up your car, but I think stainless, like exhaust applications, stainless would probably be sufficient, unless you're doing some real like garage racing, and then you're talking about like trying to just shed weight everywhere you can. You got the pockets, do it if that's what you want to do. This is America. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I was lucky enough in 2022 FabTech. I got a free titanium kit, like coupons and pie cuts from Tycon.
Yeah.
Andrew, I think you went with me, right?
Yeah, I got the same kit. It's actually still sitting in my toolbox.
You never welded it?
I never welded it.
Yeah, I welded it. I made a video on it, and the first side was like full of colors, like full rainbow, and then I posted that. I got shit on. And then,
yeah.
And then the second video was like straight gold, but I didn't even intend on it. It was like a size 10 cup probably, and everybody was like, "Hell yeah, you're good until the end." Like colors at the end, and I was kind of learning it. But I don't really weld any titanium anymore, but I could see it in the future. We're going for the shop I work for is going for from ISO 9001 to AS 9100.
Okay.
So more aerospace
and air condition, huh? More air condition.
Department of Defense, stuff like that. Yeah.
Air conditioned locked doors. That's all that really stuff seems to change for the building wise. Dude, get as much hood time as you can, and then wait until the real exotics start coming. You ever done any like Inconel, Mono, Duplex?
Just copper. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Barely.
right.
Barely.
So the tricks with those is like the edge of the weld's not really defined. You just gotta have to trust that it's there. It's a muddy puddle. Older stuff is real sluggish, so you gotta force it along. Add a little new material to get it flowing north or wherever you're pointing your tungsten. But man, there's a million tricks of that stuff that come with time. You know, you got to get experience in hood time, and thank God. I'll tell you, I got into the pipe fitters, and one of my first jobs, I had an opportunity to go on an Inconel job, and the company, they weren't putting any young people on there, and like so I passed my test, and I think there was like 4 gate tests, and the old man comes up to me and goes, "Hey man, you want to take an Inconel test?" He's like, "You're already on the job." He's like, "It's just an upgrade." I'm like, "Sure." He's like, "You ever ran it before?" I'm like, "Dang right I have." He's like, "Okay." Puts me with this older welder dude. The older guy looks at me and goes, "You ever welded this?" I'm like, "Nope." I'm like, I knew if I told him I've never welded, I wouldn't get to. So I, fake it till you make it, and hopefully the people around you will help you cover up your mistakes.
What's it weld like?
Really, it welds like anything else. It's just it's a fuzzy puddle. You can't define the edges real good. If you pop out and there's any discoloration, that discoloration will like propagate like little islands as you're moving through, and it just makes it more cloudy and more muddy. That's really it, and that has to do more with the copper being in it. Those stainlesses have a little bit of copper, and every time I've seen copper in the alloy, it becomes very hazy and sluggish. Interesting thing about Inconel is the term is dead puddle. It's a dead puddle. So like meaning if you put a fisheye in the root, and like if you do that on stainless, you can just fire back up on it, pull the fisheye out. On Inconel, it's a dead puddle. You can fire up on it and you can't reconsume that fisheye. So you got to physically cut it out and move that material out of that way. It's an interesting thing.
And when you're welding Inconel, like I'm trying to think of the way to say this. Well, I guess first I'll ask the question I already had in my head. What rod did you use to weld it?
Oh, whatever they provided. I think it was like Inconel 625 or something like that. It was a bare wire. A lot of that stuff, it was specified. The exact rod was specified by the procedure in the WPS. So I just kind of went to the rod room and go, "Hey, I need 10 of these," and they handed it to me. And that was so long ago I couldn't tell you the exact outlay, but probably 625 or something like that.
Damn. Andrew, I don't know when the last time you went to the Mathesons here in Grand Island, Nebraska, but it's they don't stock nothing. You gotta
Really?
order it. Yeah, they're under renovation right now. I went by 6 months ago. They were doing the ceiling, and there's nothing been done since. But they still say they're renovating, so there's nothing in stock.
Dude, the Matheson down here has barely anything either. Like, they don't stock much. It's
No, the Matheson's my main supplier for my school, and I think it took me. I tried for 6 months to get bandsaw blades, and then I just ordered them off Amazon and got them next day when I was in a bind. But that same thing with air gas. Air gas used to be on my supplier, and I tried to just get one of those Evolution chop saws for the shop. I think I waited for 4 months and it never showed up. You know, how hard is it to get that saw?
Yeah.
You
You know?
You can get those saws anywhere.
Right.
I don't know where the nearest air gas is. So I've only been to Matheson's and a local one called Island Welding Supply, but they're
they
pretty
got
loyal
both.
to ESOB.
Air gas and Matheson here, and they're both subpar, not gonna lie.
You know, not the dog on air gas, but it seems like they take like with traveling. I've traveled all over the United States, and there's some, and it's like they take a national training of just being not cool. Like, you go to any place and they are
National School of Dick Bags. That's where
they're just jerks, man. Like, I don't care if it was Missouri, Florida, Arizona. It was just like, I got the same crappy service everywhere. And it was just like, if you don't like it, deal with it. I'm like, well, I kind of need something, so.
You're saying air gas? Is that what you guys said?
Yeah. More in my experience.
Yeah, the Mathesons treated me
Bryn.
like shit
Oh,
until I was. So when I worked at this mass production company, a former employee of mine, or a former coworker of mine, said, no, he went in. He's a white guy with long hair and stole a welding helmet, and they knew he was from Chief because he put it on their dime. So when I go in, oh, white guy, long hair, from Chief, and then this guy, I'm friends with him now, but at the time he goes, were you in here last week? And I was like, no, what the fuck? I come like once a month for a new cylinder at my house. And he's like, you're from Chief, you stole a fucking welding helmet. And I'm like, no. Like, this was a Christmas gift. This was my first helmet ever. And, but anyways, like, now that I moved shops and I'm the one that orders from him and go to him every so often, like, he knows me and they're pretty cool with me now that I'm the one that orders. But
Sure.
Yeah,
So,
if you ever talk to John about air gas, he'll tell you how much he hates air gas.
well,
Like,
so
he can't stand air gas.
okay, Brian, here's a little background story. Our welding instructor, we had 3. One of them was John Wilmus, right? He had 7 welding supply store locations in western Nebraska, and air gas bought him out. So they had like 9 lawyers, and he had 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So that's why he says that. I think.
Yeah, but have you ever met anyone that had a good opinion about him?
I've never been there.
Oh, you've never been to an air gas?
I don't have
I
a
have yet
local.
to meet one person that likes air gas.
Yeah, I would. I mean, it's unfortunate. They're a big company. They one of their reps is bragging to me how they have like some of the most buying power or the biggest buying power of almost any industrial company. Like they're equal to Granger or Fastenal. Fastenal has a lot of buying power apparently. I didn't know that, but yeah, like they could be a great company. Just work on that customer service.
Yeah,
Like,
no kidding.
you know, you need us, we need you. Like, come on.
I haven't been at any of the companies you just listed.
That's all right.
I have. I've been to them all.
Andrew, I don't even know where my nearest air gas is. Do you? Like,
Dude, I'm thinking it's probably Omaha or Lincoln. is what I'm
yeah,
guessing.
maybe Lincoln, probably Omaha though. Yeah,
How far away is that from you?
2 hours.
Yeah, that's not worth it. I mean, it would be worth it in 15 minutes.
Yeah, nope.
Yeah, our local Matheson's is just down the highway, like 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah, I think my air gas is as a crows fly like a mile from my house, and I will actually order mine through Matheson, even from my house, and they just drop it off at the school.
And okay, so here's something they started doing at our school before or after me and Andrew left, which I wish I learned a little bit. Was well, they started my last year, the last month of my last year. They started mixing their own gas.
Okay.
Have you thought about doing that, or do you do that with your school?
I don't do it with my school. Like I showed you, I have a 200 amp welding machine over here. I'll mix. I have a bottle of helium. I'll mix that if I need some more oomph for some aluminum. But as far as that, no, because gas is such pennies on the dollar, and I have to be as efficient with my time as possible. Like mixing gas, I don't see a lot of value in it per se. Now, I would see some value in it if I had a system and I could manipulate it pretty accurately, so I could take CO2 and argon and go from like a 90-10 mix to like start messing with like tri-mixes and stuff like that if I had the time. But again, like when you start talking about education, like schools, every state has different expectations. So like, I don't. How long was your guys' program?
So technically it was 2 years, but they're partnered up with the local high school, which is like a trade high school almost for every single industry you could ever think of, which I was very lucky to join. So I started going to that college when I was a sophomore. I did my gen eds, and then junior I started welding, and then senior I took every welding class they offered free, and then I enrolled in night classes as well. So I got my associate's degree in 1 year, but technically it's 2 years.
Gotcha. So in the state of Florida, they go by contact hours. So we're at 1,050 for an adult that's doing that full time. I can have them in and out in about a school year and 2 months. So 12 months essentially. We take summer break, like I'm on summer vacation right now. But like we're also attached to a high school, and I can have a high school student for 4 years. Their first 2 years just being an hour in the afternoon, and then junior and senior year, it's 2.5 hours with me in the morning. And I have these kids walking out with 2 to 3 certs, starting into their apprenticeships. I'm a big proponent for apprenticeships and getting people into them, and like I have good relationships with several places, and if they hear that you're from my school, you're starting off pretty good money. One of my students, he was a lackluster student, high school kid though, just got an iron workers, passed all of their required tests. I think he started at $28 to $30 an hour. That's not too shabby down here in Florida.
No, it's pretty good down here.
Yeah. He's 18. And that's just, that's a good thing about it. There's some struggles with the high school side. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah, for those watching the podcast, that's a Department of Labor certification. So we're allowed to start working at a local. This is like an industry town. Keep in mind, like we've got Case New Holland, Hornady Ammunition, Chief Fabrication, Chief Buildings, Chief Agra, AGI, which just shut down the entire plant. It was a local owned plant. Like I knew the owner's son, and then he sold it in 2017 for $100 million to a Canadian company, and the Canadian company comes in for 7 years and just shuts it down and lays off 160 people as of 2 days ago.
Yeah. Wow, that's rough on that area.
Yeah. So we've got a ton of local apprenticeship opportunities. So usually we start around 16 years old, like for my example. But, I mean, apprenticeships are becoming more rare through high schools and colleges as is. But like I wouldn't have this house at 19 years old if I didn't have that early money.
Sure. Early money, you're still early, dude. Like 19 years old. I'm 20 years older than you, which is insane to me. Opportunity is there, right? If you can do the job, why shouldn't you get, regardless of your age, why shouldn't you get paid? If you're a profitable member of a company, they should mutually benefit. So the fact that you took the opportunity that was presented to you and just built a life off of it, that's good for you. But I'm going to be preaching to the choir about this. Like, you guys being young, if you show just an nth of, work ethic, you can write your own paychecks. Literally. It's just, if younger generations could see the opportunity in the market of the deficit of workers and put forth effort into the right opportunity, like, money's not a problem. These companies have a lot of problems. Money's not usually one of them. It's usually manpower and getting products out the door. So what's it matter if they pay you $40 an hour if you're productive? It just, they need someone. Why not a young person?
So I hear that all the time. Our generation isn't going to be able to fill the welding industry, which makes me happy because I'm the more demand, the more the pay. So that's what I'm thinking. But at the same time, I see so many kids getting into it. Some a little later, they fucked up at this job, so all right, let's go become a welder for cheap minimum wage like I was at that previous shop. And then the reason I left was because I'm training guys, and they come in, they start making more than me. And so I told my supervisor.
Yeah.
He was super cool with that. He started giving me a raise. Well, those guys I was training had no experience. So he would give me a raise, right? I had an interim supervisor when, unfortunately, he got cancer. He's back now, but I left right before he came back, and I totally would have stayed if he was still there. And
sure.
Gosh, he was great. I don't regret leaving because I know I'd still be making less than I made now. But,
yeah.
Oh, man. Just here's the thing is, the kids coming in my age, I notice a lot more on social media, at least. I feel like the deficit isn't as much as large companies are making it out to be.
Well, so you're probably right, because if they can convince that there's not enough, and I've seen this happen a few times in the industry, that if they can flood the market with welders, if they can tell you you're going to make $250,000 and your job security, and if they can flood the market with welders and they have a bigger pot to pick from, it's going to drive down wages for sure.
Right.
I honestly think that's intentional, but I don't think there's enough people willing to do the work that will ever come to fruition. Now, I do believe, and I've seen, I could give you an example of something that was intentionally done by companies to workers to drive down wages in my time. Have you guys heard of is it STT, RMD or STT? It's the way to put MIG roots in the pipe in the field. They're advanced processes It's anyways, one's Lincoln, or RMD, I think it's Miller, STT is Lincoln. Anyways, well, that, in my world, that was considered a specialty process. There's a company called Kiewit that started training people, paying people to train them, and they trained enough of the workforce to reclassify that as not a specialty process, but as a normal process, so they don't have to pay a premium labor rate anymore.
Yikes.
And but back to the original root of what you're saying is, I feel like that's been done for decades, at least in my opinion, of trying to flood the market. I just don't think there's enough people willing to do it, and I don't think there's going to be enough good people. You'll have a medium level of skill, but you won't have an upper level of skill. And that's what we're having a problem with, like Blue Origin, SpaceX, and the nuclear industry, because we have these amazingly skill set people, and the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s started dying off. And then that's when everyone was like, oh, don't work with your hands, go to college. And now they don't have these highly skilled workforces. So when you're talking about, like, yeah, they're going to probably drive down the wages, or they're going to replace people with robots. That's repetitive, not highly skilled task, but that won't affect guys like me or you guys, like being good at what you do. You never have to worry about your job.
Right. I'm not worried about robots at all. But the thing is, like, so you're in Florida, right? You're around aerospace quite a bit,
Right.
Florida, Texas, I don't know who else is around aerospace, and people that, like, for me personally, we still do, at least right now, we do aerospace quite a bit. That's why we're going to that AS 9100 certification company-wide. And we do some DOD shit as well. But when you really think about, like, all the states that aren't around that aerospace industry, nobody cares about quality so much. Like,
well, let me hold you up there. Like, okay, you go to chemical plants. Chemical plants aren't luxurious, but there's a lot of high-end alloys in there. You go to power generation, which is everywhere, and you have to have a level of proficiency and a high level of skill to do that type of work. Aerospace isn't the end all be all. Aerospace is honestly kind of a broad term for a lot of people. Just throw it under that umbrella, and it's bullshit. That's really not even critical to flight. You're welding. Like my first job, I welded covers for F-18s. Not critical to flight. It was a cover for their radar or some kind of system. I was doing aerospace. Like, ooh, it could have been easily done by a low-skilled person, which I was at the time. Every place has something that's going to take a high level of professionalism. It's just if you're aware of it or not. And these automation, even automation boom right now. Like, I'm getting emails for working in essentially programming welding machines. They're talking about $75 an hour, $140 a day per diem. Anyways.
Yeah, but in Nebraska, that's not very common. Like, I'm just giving Nebraska because that's where I'm from, but I'm assuming, like, Montana, Idaho, Nebraska, a lot of states that aren't so huge on welding. Of course, we have these industry towns like I got blessed to be in. But a lot of them are just lay some shit down. Of course, like agricultural shit, it's like, all right, lay a weld down, make it stick, but keep going. Like, you need a high rate. Whereas, like, we have my company and Hornady ammunition, and it's like, that's got to be precise. But not everybody has that, like us do, like we do. And even then, we're still pretty low on welders. Like, we don't have enough work to hire enough because the industry doesn't care so much about quality as it used to.
Quality and production, like most supervision or most management's driven by production, right? And only time quality comes into question is when they have a problem. So this is a pitfall I see a lot of young people fall into. Is like, hurry up and weld it, I don't care what it looks like. And then it gets rejected or failed, and and then it's your name and you're not worth a crap because you're told to hurry up. It doesn't matter. I hear what you're saying. I understand your point, but no matter who you are and what you're being told, your name's on that piece of metal. Like, no matter what, you're attached, and your brand as a person's attached to it, and you gotta. That's a pitfall people fall into all the time, and they can be put in the circumstances they didn't put their best foot forward because they didn't think they had to, and it comes back later on and bites them in the butt. So
do you think?
I
What's that?
I hear what you're saying with, like, they don't need to be highly skilled, or they're not highly skilled, but a craftsman is still a craftsman. You can hang a door in a crappy house, and you could hang a door in a mansion, and you could still take the same amount of pride.
That's true. For me, it was more of the company pressing me to, like, they would put our rates, parts per hour on the wall in front of everybody. Everybody had to look at it at the beginning of the week. We'd do stretches and whatever shit before every shift, and everybody would look at the wall, look at your rates, and compare it to everybody else. So do you think it's a fault on the company or the welder itself?
So production is part of our world, right? Like, we have to be productive. But what falls under you solely is your level of professionalism on that part. They can tell you they want $1 million, and you get $1 million, and they're like, well, why didn't you do $1 million and one? Like, and as a young person, I was always challenged by trying to get more production, and I made it like a game within. Like, I used to throw down money on, like, who could, if me and a buddy of mine had a similar weld, we'd throw money who could weld it faster. Now, as far as your production numbers, that was part of the job that you accepted. It was up to you to make sure it looked good, and no matter how many you got done, if it looked like crap and they had a problem with it or it was rejected, they would have came to you, and you would have been not worth a crap at that point. The company needs to make a product, and they need to get it in and out of the door. That's just how business works. How it looks is up to you.
Yeah. But at least in my state, it's like, it's hard to find those quality over quantity jobs. So a lot of people are sacrificing their craftsmanship just to get that quantity.
Does it take any longer to run a shitty bead compared to a nice bead?
That depends on the welder, I suppose. That's a fucking good point. You got my ass there.
Like, it doesn't, like, it takes all, actually, it would probably be faster if you put a quality bead down. There's less post-process work to do. I honestly, I hear what you're saying, and I know where you're coming from, and I know what you're trying to articulate, but I think that's a lot of cop-out on people. Like, I think I have a problem when people tell me they're going to try, like, especially students. Oh, I'll try to do good on that. Like, make a decision. Do it or don't do it. Like, same with these guys. Like, and these production jobs, I always love, like, people get pissed off about being at them. They agreed to those jobs. Like, no one sat there. This isn't a communist country. No one sat there and forced you to take that job. If you don't like the way it runs, like, go to a new place, but you agreed to be there for that set amount of money under these circumstances. Like, if you think that you're getting rushed and you can't do a good job, like, what if you slowed down and did one less a day? Would your quality go up? Probably not.
Dude, you got me with what did you last say?
Does it take any longer to run a bad bead than it does to run a good bead?
So you got me on that. Like, that sole sentence might have changed my entire perspective on. So I was big on the, you need experience, like, but you might have just proved that experience matters more than the quality of, like, you just proved to me that experience matters.
Yes, experience matters. Quick comes with time. Like, it takes the same amount of effort. So a 6-inch girdle 40 weld, if anyone came up to me and was like, hey, how long should it take you to weld? From root to cap, that's a 30-minute weld. I could probably do it a little bit quicker when I was turning and burning. But then I see if someone does it in 2-3 hours, and it looks like crap. Like, he had as much time as I gave him. Like, I wasn't sitting there pushing him, and that's the perspective that you got to get under. Is like, these are achievable expectations. People just make excuses when they when they start limiting themselves, well, I don't have enough time to be good. Well, how much time do you actually need to be good? It should take a conscious effort. Like, consciously, you should be trying to get better every day. And perfection's you'll never achieve a perfection, but this is an industry of always chasing it. And within the ability of chasing perfection, you're going to get precision. And you can be precise, and you can be proficient. You'll never be perfect. And I always loved production jobs because by the time I walked out of there, I could slick them out, and I could do it fast. Time, hood time, and one of the guys I ended up doing a lot of heavy weld with. He, when I was young, he was like, I would like every bead, I would hit it with a wire wheel. And this guy's on the other side just smoking me, putting way more metal in it, bead after bead. And I look at him, I'm like, you're not worried about it? He's like, dude, he's like, if something's in it, I'm gonna see it. He's like, all the other stuff, a rod takes as long as a rod takes to burn. What you do in between your other steps is where you save time. So, like, keep that in mind. Every time you want to hit yourself with, like, oh, I don't have enough time to be good. The welding, what the 15-20% of your actual job is going to take as long as it's going to take, regardless of what you're going to do. Like, the process is only the process. Your other steps are where you make up time.
And so earlier when we talked about experience, how experience matters, because you completely flipped my entire perspective on this industry in this short podcast. So experience, right? Me and Jason were talking about welder repair, and I probably not down in Florida, but like when we have winters up here and it's slow and your whole industry is almost always based around agriculture, so the industry's slow around the winter time. What, welder repair, picking up a broom, all that's important on maintaining your machines and stuff like that. Do you teach welder repair in your class?
As far as just repairing random stuff that needs to be done, like, or like, expand on that. What are you asking? What do I teach?
So, Andrew, how would you describe our welder repair class that we went through?
Just testing to make sure, your machine's putting out the correct amps that it's saying it is. Like if it says it's putting out 180, is it truly putting out 180 at the leads? And just testing different things, just confirming that your machine is in fact working. Or, like you said, even basic stuff, whether it's replacing, diagnosing bad drive rollers on a MIG machine, or replacing liners or chopping liners, or anything like that.
So I have this term I use in my shop. If you don't know how to use it, you can't use it. If it breaks, if you can't fix it, you can't use it. Now, I'll sit there, and I'm a big proponent of letting people struggle. I'll come over there, and I'll if you didn't come to me and go, it's broken, and just like no other thought, I'll be like, man, that sucks, and I'll just stare at you. If you come over like, hey, this is what's going on, and like have a conversation, we'll go have a conversation. As far as like intentionally setting out time to do that, no, I let stuff fail, and you got to maintain your own equipment while you're there. If you've never done it, like first time evolutions, we're going to be a part of it. And I can tell you, I probably have a different perspective from teaching than most people, and even Jason. Like I have a different outlook on it than he does, and right, wrong, or indifferent, we've both been pretty successful at it. So, that's there. Like I'm, like you guys talked about a metallurgy class. How much did that help you?
Well, I tuned out completely and was arrogant during my entire welding school. So none at all.
Okay. You guys take measuring classes and fabrication classes?
They didn't offer that. Which
no,
was...
What was a layout? And
Oh
assembly?
no! It was you had to build a project. Like one of the classes was you had to build a project.
Quote
and some
it,
of these kids
get suppliers, like all that yourself.
Yeah, like you would have to write a supply list. You would have to basically quote in hours how many hours you think it should take, and do blueprints and all that. Most kids, it would take them the whole 6 months to do something that should take a freaking day.
I gotcha. Okay, so like one of my expectations is like I'm gonna go through material with you guys, but it's my expectation is for you to work on it. Now, when I talk about projects, I don't mean like a full bill out sheet, which I've done similar stuff, but that was for a customer that came in that needed a widget made, and I made my students go draw it out and get a parts list and cut list and then bid it out and all that, or get the price on material. But any random day, my students can come in, I hand them print, I'm like, you have 2 hours to build this. I don't spend a lot of time in the classroom talking about theory. I spend 15 minutes to 30 minutes in the morning talking about theory or anything else that's supported by some online modules that they need to do at home. But my goal is to get these people as proficient in welding, and with the expectation that you need to take raw materials and make them into the product the company needs as proficiently as possible. And that's why I have that good bead bad bead thing locked in the chamber at all times, because I get that all the time. I had another instructor argue with me one time. He's like, well, how much tape measure did you go over? I'm like, one time. Like I'll sit and someone individually is like struggling on it and they ask for help, I'll go help them. He's like, well, what if they get out of a job, they don't know how to read a tape measure? Well, I'm like, well, they're adults. They made the choice not to put forth that effort. 2, I know my students will get on that job with their welding ability for them to find out that they can't read a tape measure. Like, if you don't spend that time, that art time on where they're proficient, that company won't even get to the point of finding out they can read a tape measure because they can't weld. You know, the biggest thing is, like, you guys being so young have more experience, but most people that are coming right in industry that have no experience, the only profitable thing that they can do for that company at that time is weld, burn a rod. So if I can get them at least to do that for that company, they'll work with all the other downfalls, you know, or not downfalls, but, you know, something that they're not as proficient at as they should be.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think you said it right. I think this industry, or at least in the like college aspect of it, when you're going to welding college or welding school, I mean, I think what you come out with is what you put into it. I think
100%.
it's what it is heavily based on. It's not, you know, professor's going to hold your hand through the entire semester and this, that, and the other. Like, it's up to you whether you want to learn to fabricate, read a tape measure, replace the bandsaw blades. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You get out what you put in, and I think that's what this industry is heavily dependent on.
And
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so Andrew and I had 3 instructors. Well, Andrew, I don't know if you went through Brandon, because Brandon was the high school teacher.
I had him for a summer class, so yeah, I'd had him.
So we have Brandon, who is the dual credit enrolled, like only high school, because there was 20 of us per class, two classes per day, and every other day. So he had 80 students in total. And then we had John Wilmus and Michael Snell, CWI, and then welding business supply owner. And Brandon was from the Army. He was career Army. So as soon as you came in through the high school, like, he's whipping your ass into shape. Like, I built brass knuckles.
Like that.
I built brass knuckles when I was still in high school, and he kicked my ass out real fast.
Yeah. Good.
Well, he found me, and I'm thinking, Brandon's so gullible, I'm going to tell him it's a 3-ring binder, and he won't even know
Oh,
what
yeah.
that is. And no, he kicked my ass out real fast. And then you go to those 2 guys that, like, Brandon will teach you the ins and outs of welding, the solids, and then you'll get reaffirmed by these 2 guys that have tons of industry experience from completely different backgrounds. So, are you the sole instructor?
So I started the program 6 years ago, completely by myself. with the success that it's had, we've tripled in size. I was able to bring another instructor on. My original instructor, completely different background, passed away, I want to say in November from cancer. And then I brought another guy on. He was from the only school that really gives me any competition when it comes to Skills USA and locally. He was kind of like me over there and wanted to be a part of what we were doing. So the local people that are in our world that take students from these schools are really excited about us working together and having our different perspectives, and the students that we're able to usually produce are pretty good employees for the industry. So they're excited about this. So I have one other. My workload, I'll have 24 students and he'll have 21, and that's based off of our shop sizes. I run usually 3 different levels. So I'll have a more senior, a middle, and a new group. And I did that when I was by myself for a long time, for a few years. I did that as a way to unburden myself with some of the workload. So if I took 24 students in, I'm holding everyone's individual hand, do it. Now I have different cohorts, and I can't tell you how much I learned by teaching, and that physical perspective change has taught me a lot, and I use it as a benefit for my students to see that perspective change and try to articulate what they need to articulate to someone else. And and I watch those people that I put in those positions, they accelerate very quickly in their own aspect.
Man, it seems similar to teaching, like you just explained, how much you've learned, to this podcast, how much I've learned, even in this episode. Like, you flipped my perspective 180 degrees in a couple of minutes. Like,
oh, stick with me, kid. I'll teach you a thing or two about a thing or two.
Can we put that shit on a T-shirt? Like, can we get that quote on a T-shirt? Wear that at FabTech?
Next time someone's like dogging a place, hit them with that, and they won't really know what to say to that one.
It's been insane, and I think we might need to do a part 2 of your episode in person when we're in Florida, or when I'm in Florida. Absolutely. You're both in Florida, but when I'm there,
we're here. Trust me.
For FabTech, I think we need to get this planned. Like, we really appreciate you coming on, and we're about an hour in footage, and that's where we try to keep it around. So I don't know if you've listened or not, but one question we always ask every guest is, what's your favorite genre of music to listen to while you work or weld?
Oh man, I'm a Florida boy, so it's like reggae. Like, depends on the mood. I'm like Dirty Heads, or I'll go Bob Marley if I'm feeling old school. You need to have this guy Matt Bartles on. He's like my coast. He's like me, but millwright and but our coast of Florida. And like same music, and Jason always used to give me a hard time. Dick, why you always putting reggae music with your stuff? I guess Orlando's more like metalheads, like Pantera and stuff like that. We're over here on the water, just sipping some strawberry wine, as they say, and doing other things, and enjoying the sun and the salt water.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Seriously, I'm stumped because you flipped a couple of years of perspective into something completely different.
And as you get older and you get more experience, it's going to flip again, and that's part of growing. It's part of life.
We appreciate it a lot. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you as well. Everlast Welders, link in the description. Nova TIG Torch and Foot Pedal. Edge Welding Cups, code Bryn Welds 15 for 15% off. And Mr. Andrew.
All good stuff.
And head on over to southernleatherworks.net to get all custom welding hoods and all custom leatherworking needs. Mr. Bingo, we appreciate you coming on and stumping me and my good friend Bryn Welds here. We look forward to a part 2. Catch us in Orlando. We'll see you at FabTech.
Thank you for having me. See ya.